Fingerboarding is awesome, but to even get a cheap fingerboard like this Tech Deck that I got at Walmart for $10, that's still not cheap for some people. Especially because it's just a miniature little skateboard that seems kind of useless to some people. And then to get a rail like this, if you don't make it, say buy this off the Black River website, this is about $80. So then you're already out $90 just for two things. So today, I'm going to make a fingerboard and a fingerboard rail for the broke fingerboarder out there. So now, let's jump right into it. So if you want to make something more advanced like this, go ahead and click that tag right up there, just because this is awesome and it is also relatively cheap. It's more so it just needs a little bit more hand-on work, but go ahead and make this. This is awesome, pretty easy to follow, and go check it out right up there. And I've been actually using this for like hours on end because it's so fun, and this is very expensive if you don't make it. So we made this entire thing for under $10, which I think is just awesome, and we have made a paper fingerboard before, but you do need two fingerboards to make the paper fingerboard. So today I'm not going to be using anything but just raw materials, so let's do it. So the first material you will need is cardstock or paper. I'm just using cardstock because it's a little bit more firm and it dries a bit quicker, and I want to kind of make this as fast as possible just for you guys, so I'm using cardstock. And to glue the cardstock, I have this Elmer's glue. This is the extra extreme stuff, and it's basically just a thicker Elmer's glue. I honestly can't really tell the difference aside from this is just thicker, and I think it is a little bit more sticky, but any Elmer's glue will leak as well. And here we have the high priced item. This is 4 cents worth of straws, super expensive, so I don't know, you might want these, you might not, but you probably have these already, so that'll work. We have a few different grits of sandpaper here. I'm not gonna go into how many grits they are, but I'm gonna use this one because it looks pretty awesome. I don't really know how they got that design on there, but it looks pretty awesome, so I'm using that. I also have this tissue box, and this is pretty easy to come by. You probably have one in your house. Wait until it's empty just to do this video, or empty it out, and any box will really work around this size. I've also seen people use a book just for like a little ledge, but we are going to be wrecking this, so don't wreck a book. I also have a little just piece of cardboard, you'll see what that's for. And to glue everything together, we have a hot glue gun. If you don't have a hot glue gun, I got this at Dollarama for $3, so even if you don't have a hot glue gun, this is pretty cheap, and you can use this for pretty much anything in the future, so buy one of these if you don't have one. And that's about it, so let's get started. To start off, we're gonna make the fingerboard, and you do not need trucks or wheels, and you'll see how we're going to do that. So I'm just going to cut this out, and I'm not going to use a fingerboard for like measurements or anything, just because I'm assuming people who are following this video don't have a fingerboard, so this is what you're going to do. So the first layer that I am making right now establishes the shape of your fingerboard. Take your time, it's okay if you have to redo it, and I would suggest doing this with paper before you use cardstock, just because this stuff is a little bit more pricey than just regular paper. So use paper just to get like a little template down and then trace it onto cardstock. I'm going to redo that, but I'm just going to kind of get the width first. I'm just actually going to redo that. I kind of just messed up on one of the lines. You can also use a pencil, but I'm just going to freehand it, so let's do it. I am going to make it a little bit wide like this. I just kind of like wide fingerboards, so I'm doing this. That's a pretty nice angle like that. I feel like that's a pretty nice size like that, a little on the long side, but it'll work. I forgot to mention you do need a pencil, but everybody has a pencil, hopefully. And I'm just tracing this one to get kind of the width as close as possible, because I'm not actually going to cut this right out. We are going to now put some glue on here and slap it right on there. And I'd recommend making about 4 of these plus your original shape. And I'm going to use a leftover cardstock just to glue this, just because it's a little bit of a messy process, so let's do this. This glue is pretty thick. It's kind of hard to get out. So you can use your finger. I'm going to be using a popsicle stick for this, but feel free to just use your fingers. It works the same. So you just want to spread this out in a nice even fashion, like that. And now I'm going to take our original shape, place that on like so, and now carefully take this off without getting any glue on the back. Doesn't really matter, but it just makes it look a lot cleaner. So that's what I'm doing. So now time for the hardest part of this whole process, and honestly it's not very hard to do. You're basically just getting the shape of the board. You can shape it however you want. I'm just doing kind of classic fingerboard shape like that. Make sure you get all the edges on it, and then just get the angle you want. I'm also kind of just flaring the sides up a little bit. That's just the shape of the fingerboard that I use. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now we are going to let this dry before we add our next layers.
2,000 years later.
So I just finished putting the third layer on here, and it's getting pretty firm now. So while this last layer is drying, we are going to work on a little obstacle. And again, I didn't use any other fingerboards to get this shape. This is just the shapes that I was able to make with my fingers. And it'll also help to get some reference photos for this, just because it's a little bit easier to follow an actual fingerboard or a picture. So go ahead and follow a picture. So kind of the idea for this is we are going to take a tissue box, place a straw, glue it on something like that, and then we'll have a little rail that'll be actually very cheap and pretty easy to make, and it'll function pretty well. So let's just get an idea how long a little miniature rail is going to be. And this is pretty small scale, but it's okay for your first little fingerboard rail because you're probably not going to be able to ollie this high anyways right off the start. So now let's make it. So I think something like that will work. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this straw right about there. See what that does for us. I'm just gonna trim it up a tiny bit more. So now we are going to kind of fold this end over like that, if you can see that, so it can fit into the other one just like that. And you could reinforce this with glue, tape, kind of whatever. I might add a little bit of tape, but this should be strong enough. And boom, that's a little rail. So I'm just waiting for the hot glue gun to heat up, so we'll glue that there. And we are going to take this little scrap piece of cardboard just for the bottom like that, so it's a little bit more stable, just because we don't really want this hanging there, or else it'll just be wobbly and it won't be fun. So first I'm just gonna clean this cardboard up a little bit, get it looking nice. That looks pretty good like that. So now let's wait for the glue to heat up. It'll be about a minute for me, but only 1 second for you. So just have a black screen for 1 second, and then a hot glue gun will be ready. Now that that boring black screen that was on there for only 1 second, but it felt like an eternity, is gone, time to glue it. We even have where the glue is gonna go right on there. I actually don't think I'll use, actually, that looks pretty nice. I'm just going to kind of add a little bit of hot glue to a straw inside. Let that kind of go down if it can without melting the straw. And this will just add a little bit of stability to it because it's not going to be like super strong. So this will just really help in making it a little bit more firm. Now put the glue on there. That looks nice. Once that dries, I am going to reinforce it with a little bit of glue, so let's just wait for that to dry. Because these materials aren't very dense, the glue is taking quite a while to dry, just about there.
A few inches later.
That is dried now, so now let's glue the other end of our straw onto our cardboard. I think this is going to be a pretty sweet rail once it's finished. Even though it's not metal, it'll still have a nice feeling to it. I've never ridden a plastic rail. I bet it's going to feel quite a bit different than like aluminum, like what I've made other rails with, but I'm sure it'll be nice. This is dried, so I'm going to move it aside, and now we'll finish our board. Once you're done your layers, you'll have something that looks like this, and I cut it away every layer. So I basically just did this every new layer I put on. And this is a pretty solid little fingerboard. So this is actually going to be pretty sweet. Now, time for our trucks. So I'm assuming that if you're following this stuff, you don't have trucks for a fingerboard, and you might not even know what trucks are. Trucks is this little metal thing that wiggles back and forth. So you're probably curious, how are you going to make that? Because it is a little bit complicated if you want to build this. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. We're going to be using a straw. What does that even mean? I'll show you. We we are going to take this little piece, hot glue it on like that, and that's going to act as our truck. You're not going to be able to like lean back and forth, but honestly you don't really need to do that with a fingerboard unless you have like a huge pike and you just like to kind of turn and curve a little bit. So this is going to be a pretty simple thing. Just glue it on, make another one, and glue it on. And those are your trucks. This is a little bit lower than your classic fingerboard trucks, so you can also add another layer if you want them a tiny bit taller, which I might do, but I kind of like how it's feeling right now. You do also have a little bit of turn to it. That's nice. There's no grip tape, so it's hard to do anything with it right now. So this is a little bit too low for my liking. I could have made the tail a little bit steeper so I could get a little bit more pop to it, but I'm just gonna add another straw. I'm going to see if I can kind of press this first layer down a little bit, because I think 2 layers would be a tiny bit too much. So if I can kind of flatten these a little bit, I think it'll just be a better height. That feels a lot better. That's better. I can actually get some pop to it now. But now we need grip tape because it's still not super good, so let's add grip tape. Instead of using this, I am going to use this black stuff. It just has a little bit more grip to it, so let's add it. I'm just trimming it up a little bit and then we'll glue it in place. So because this board is so simple to make, I'm not going to add some sort of adhesive that then you can replace the grip tape with. So I'm just going to use super glue to add this. You can use hot glue. I'm just using super glue because it'll be a little bit more clean. So that's what I'll do. It's always cool working with super glue because I can feel the heat building up underneath that, just because super glue is a chemical reaction, so I can feel that. I did miss a little tiny sliver there, but that's all right. Now time to trim it up. This is starting to look awesome. This is now a little fingerboard. I just took a couple dabs of hot glue just to glue this in place on the table. Use blue tack or some sort of putty instead. I just don't have blue tack for some reason, so I just glued it down, just lightly tack it so I can take it off later. Now let's ride this. I'm not used to having a fingerboard that's so lightweight. This doesn't weigh anything because of the trucks that aren't on here. Again, it's so lightweight, but that's all right. It still looks like perfectly fine. So there you go. That's how you can make a super budget fingerboard and it actually works quite well. If you don't have a fingerboard or don't have the money to buy a fingerboard, this is a great alternative. And you can also put something heavy in the straws, like a little piece of wood, a little piece of metal glued in place, just so it has a little bit more weight to it, because it's pretty hard to like kick flip this. I don't know why, it just doesn't have the weight, I guess. So go ahead, add something heavy on it. It'll really make a difference, and then you'll be a pro fingerboarder who uses this. But I will say, like, this isn't bad. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Be sure to hit the subscribe button right over there, because I post 3 videos a week, so I don't want you guys to miss out. Social media links are in the description below. 2 more videos for you to see. One is up there and the other is down there like always. Click one of those if you are bored to watch another video. See you in my next video.